Oh, never mind. It must be out in my truck. Took some hats to go golfing, and that must have been one of them.
All right, let me open up the chat box here. Give it one more minute here. We're not being broadcast out right now, so
Okay.
we've got a little opening that is running.
I don't know why my lighting's so bad. This doesn't help.
That looks good.
That's better, but
Yeah.
we just have a new house that we moved into, and it's on the old farm, but it's a new house, and we haven't got all this figured out yet.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Well, hello, DCO Nation. Welcome back to another DCO Live Thursday night. Cheers. I got a little frog in my throat tonight, so I might be clearing my throat a couple different times or drinking a little more of this. So, guys, tonight, got a really special guest here. I've got Kerry Browning with Release Over 20, and I've been wanting to have Kerry on for a little while now to kind of talk fish conservation, Release Over 20, and because right now fish conservation is the hot topic, especially in the Carolinas right now. And Kerry, welcome. I really appreciate you coming on. And how long have we known each other? It hasn't been very long, maybe about a year and a half or so.
Not very long. First, Chris, thanks for having me, but it hasn't been very long. In fact, you and I think we met at Hadrill's at one of the fishing expos, maybe the year after COVID, that they finally, brought it back and got to know each other a little bit. Chris been on my boat, had some good times, but yeah, it's
Okay,
been
okay,
great
no,
knowing
no,
you.
okay, I've got to stop you right there. You outfished me, and I told you when I left I'm not coming back. You couldn't outfish the host. So,
Honestly, I don't remember that.
oh,
I
really?
get,
Oh, okay. Well, then that's fine.
hey, Chris, my wife outfishes me, so I mean, maybe that puts you in a different category. But you know what I need to do? I'll put you on the boat with my wife, and if she outfishes you, you're not coming back.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No, she's a really good little angler. So, but yeah, we fished together. We got to know each other a little bit, and I really appreciate you doing what you're doing for Release Over 20, helping get the word out, and we all do. So thanks for
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So I've got a bunch of questions over here, so I may be looking down and kind of away from you to look at some of my notes. But for the guys who don't know what Release Over 20 is, can you just give a little bit of a background and how you guys formed and what you're all about and kind of your mission statement?
I can, and really the best way for me to do that is to tell you how I found Release Over 20 myself. So I have a friend who gets on my boat, Adam, who's now the treasurer of Release Over 20, and at the time he was just an angler, and he was like, "Harry, have you heard about Release Over 20?" And I'm like, "I don't have no idea what that is." And he starts telling me, "Well, Chris, I'm sure we're all guilty of it, but I keep trout. Release Over 20 does not, we don't try to guilt anybody into not keeping fish. We just ask that they consider letting the big breeders go, which are the 20+ inch trout, because those trout are 4 years old in South Carolina. They will put 20 million eggs back into our ecosystem annually. whereas a 14 or 15-inch trout might put 9 million back in. They have great genetics to be able to survive. They're survivors, so they must have really good genetics. They have a lot going for them. So we just are trying to make people understand that it's important to put those fish back because they're the survivors, and they put a lot of eggs back into the ecosystem. And really, an 18-inch trout carved up on the dinner plate is great. You're not going to gain that much from a 20-inch, but when you let it go and it's able to procreate and all that good stuff for the estuary, then it's all good. That's all good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and I love fish. I eat fish, and I get this question all the time from a lot of my viewers: is do you keep fish? We see you releasing everything. And yes, I do. When I'm out on the water, I put everything back. On my channel page, one of my mission statements is conservation starts with you. Release a fish for somebody else to enjoy. Because if I remove that fish, then I'm the only one that can enjoy that fish, one time. If I put it back, then at least, one, it may lay eggs, spawn, and breed, and two, somebody else could probably get the enjoyment of catching that fish.
Yeah.
So, we're definitely on the same page with that. And, you were talking about 20 million eggs that a trout lays. You guys actually have on your website, I don't know, is it like an egg count that goes
Hey,
up?
so when I first met David Flad, I talked to him. He's the president of Release Over 20, by the way. But when I first talked to him, I never met him. It was by phone, and I told him, I said, man, because I was so excited. I'm going to go back to when Adam told me about Release Over 20. And when I realized that I'm carving up these 20-inch trout, not that I caught so many of them, but when I'm carving them up, and I realized that if I wasn't carving these fish up, this is what happens. 20 million eggs go back into the estuary. So that was a light that went on for me big time. And so then David Flad reached out to me because I have a YouTube channel. I think he reached out to me just to say, hey, if you want to come by the shop sometime, I'd love to, meet you and that kind of thing. I hope David's watching tonight. I went by the shop thinking, oh, he wants to make me an ambassador because I've got like what 320 viewers or something. And so anyway, I go in there. $200 later, when I walk out and I bought all these jig heads and all that stuff, I realized that I was the. But anyway, I got to talk to him, and then he and I got on the phone one day, and I said, David, wouldn't it be cool if how McDonald's had they used to say however many millions of burgers were sold. Chris, we're old guys, we're gonna remember this,
Yeah.
but then it went from that to billions and billions served. I said, wouldn't it be cool if we could do like a count of the number of eggs that are going back into and that's on our website now. And he's made that happen, and it's really, I mean, it's billions of eggs.
I actually wrote down the number. So
Okay.
I looked at it today, and the number is 255,840,000,000.
Isn't that
So,
amazing?
me being just a numbers geek guy, if only 10% survive, that's 25 billion eggs that
Yeah.
survive. It's
Yeah. And
mind
I
blowing.
think actually the survival rate, Chris, is like 8%. So it's significant.
Yeah.
It really is. And that's just the people that register their fish and get online and, get a picture taken with their fish. I fished with a guy today who caught a 41-inch redfish. Adam, my friend Keith caught a 41-inch redfish. Adam caught a 27 that was tagged. I caught I don't know, a 19 or something, just along with other fish. But all of those fish, they just knowing that they're released, that they're going to someday, 41-inch is definitely spawning if it's a female. But the 28, maybe a few more years before, but you let that go. And I know we have a slot here, but even when you let the over 20s go, redfish because redfish are plentiful here as far as, eaters go.
Hmm.
You know that. I mean, you can catch a mess of redfish here. Probably would like to see those numbers come up. And I think the DNR, in all honesty, I think they say the numbers are declining. So, it's something to keep our eyes on for sure.
The redfish numbers you're saying are
Yeah.
DNR is starting to report some decline in redfish numbers.
Chris, that's what's so unique about Release Over 20 is that we could say that stuff. We work with DNR. We have friends in DNR, and we talk to them pretty regular. They can't say that kind of thing,
Hmm.
but we can. And whether it's believed or not, at
Right.
least we're putting it out there, and I believe it. If DNR tells me that the number of redfish are on the decline, I believe it. But then the state of South Carolina may very well, and I don't want to get political at all, but the state of South Carolina may say, the DNR, I mean, the redfish numbers are up. And that's okay, except, if they're not, then, that becomes a little bit of an issue. So
Right,
it's
right.
interesting.
So let's stick with the trout real quick. Have you heard anything about the trout numbers? Are the trout numbers stable, getting better, on the decline? Have you heard anything about speckled trout?
Well, I don't know about you, Chris, but I can tell you that we've had better trout years. I'm sure you're the same way.
Yeah.
In the winter, in the fall, and going into winter, when the trout are all schooled up and we're catching trout in creeks, and you find that hot spot, you're going to catch a bunch of them. But overall, I'm not sure that there's as many trout over the summertime periods. You almost have to go out into the ocean to find trout anymore. Maybe it's the temperature of the water. I don't know, but I'm not finding trout inshore much at all. But if you get close to the mouth of, like, Price Creek where I fish, or any of those creek mouths that go out and feed into the ocean, you'll find some trout there. But we got on a really good trout bite out in the ocean. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty much seeing the same thing. I'm not catching a whole lot of trout during the summer.
uh-uh.
If I
We didn't
am,
last year.
it's yeah, it's off of maybe a cold front coming through or some kind of change in the water temperature. When I went out a couple of weeks ago is when we were having all that rain,
Yeah.
and it actually dropped the water temperatures down, and the trout, I caught a few more trout, but they're just not as prevalent as they were, I'm going to say 10 years ago. Trout
Well, even
fishing.
even 5 years ago, it seemed like, Chris, to me, it seemed like 4, 5 years ago, you could go hit those same points at, say low tide with the water coming in. You could hit those same oyster banks, and you're going to catch redfish right on the oysters. But then when you come off the oysters, you just, you're swimming your paddle tail or whatever you got. You're swimming that. And when you swim it, those trout were always suspended in 8 foot of water, and maybe a 16-foot water column. They're suspended in about 8 to 10 foot. And we caught them all the time, right along with redfish, and you flounder up close to the banks, whatever. But hasn't been that way for the last few years. I don't know
Right.
why.
Yeah, yeah, we're definitely seeing the same thing. So before I get again too deep into this, can you let everybody know what your position is with Release Over 20 and what you do?
Well, I just kind of, like, I put the giveaways together monthly. I try to. I'm not that good at it because I'm not built that way, but I try to, bring people in to be sponsors of Release Over 20. And when we start running low on inventory from, um, well, yeah, I know that. But when things start, getting low, then I'll reorder that kind of thing. And then I'm a board member too, along with Adam and David, who's the president. Adam's the treasurer, and then we just brought on another board member who's been great. So
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I don't want to gloss over that. So, Release Over 20, they want you guys to go to their website, register their fish, and basically get rewarded for releasing these fish. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up their website real quick. Carrie and I, we're going to go away here real fast, but I'm going to show you their website. It's a little bit unique because when you their homepage is their entry form.
That's
So
right.
when you go to the homepage, there's no fumbling around trying to find, what drop down box or whatever. They want you to jump right in, and you can see right there's the entry form. And then once you get entered in, then you can go and check. Here's the leaderboards, here's the current month, here's the current year, inception. They have all the numbers. I mean, it is fantastic. And then at the end of the month, they have a drawing, and everybody who entered a fish gets they get a drawing, and if they pull your name, you get a prize package. And Carrie, you put together some great packages.
Chris, we had I'm going to say, it's really enjoyable doing that too, but we had maybe a 13, 15-year-old young man that won a prize package. It's four prize packages. One is for the captains, the Get On Board program, and then we have the sheep's head, and we have redfish now, and then we also have the trout. So we used to categorize them. Now we no longer do that. We just do three giveaways for those entries, and then everybody gets a chance at it because the sheep's head, there was only like six people that were in sheep's head. So, they had the same winner about every other month. But
Right.
anyway, I had a kid on here that was maybe 13 years old, super excited that he entered the fish, but then he won. And I texted him. Well, he actually put it on his Instagram, and of course David found it, our president found it, and reposted it, whatever. And I reached out to him and I said, look, if that T-shirt, because we do random sizes of T-shirts, we don't do, we have no idea who's going to win. It
Hmm.
might be, somebody like me that would wear a medium, or it might be somebody that would wear an extra large. We never know. But anyway, I texted him and I said, look, whatever his name was, if that shirt doesn't fit you, let me know because I'll send you the one. He's like, thank you so much, but it was the perfect size. He was just so excited to win
That's
that.
great. That's
And little
fantastic.
kids will love this, Chris. I took my nephews, my nephew and niece, my two nephews and a niece. I took them fishing, told them about Release Over 20. They spent their whole 3 days that they were here trying to catch a 20-inch trout that they could release.
Yeah.
That's how important it was to them. They didn't care about keeping fit. And
Yeah.
I love that about this generation of kids coming up. They're very, eco-minded. So
Yeah.
it's
And I love the program that you guys started with the captains and guides. I think that's fantastic. And I
mhm.
know that here in Murrells Inlet, Captain Jason Burton and Murrells Inlet Fishing Charters, they've adopted that and taken that right to heart. Now I think all trout over 20 inches is released with Jason and all their clients.
You know what? Those guys are fantastic. David, I think they kind of surprised him with that, but yeah, David was invited to I want to say maybe a tournament or something. And after the tournament, that's when they told them that all of Georgetown and Murrells Inlet, all of the captains there were going to, and I hope I'm saying that right, but I think it's Georgetown and Murrells Inlet, but all of the captains decided collectively that they were going to release 20-inch trout. They weren't going to let any of their clients keep 20-inch over trout, which is huge. Oh my gosh, it's so huge.
Yeah, yeah.
I wish
And
we
I've
could get that going.
Yeah, yeah, and I've heard Jason on some other interviews that he's done where the clients don't mind it at all. They're like, yeah, because once Jason explains it to them and the science and keeping the population stocked in our little fishery, Merle's Inlet is small and it gets a lot of
It
pressure.
is. It
So
does.
yeah, and they don't mind it at all. They love it. So yeah, it is not really that big of a deal for them to do that, and it's great that they've spearheaded that down here or up here.
But Chris, that's also their livelihood. So
Hmm.
why wouldn't they want to do that? I mean, I'm not saying that to sound like they don't want to help their clients, bring in 10 fish to eat. You're there on vacation, you've hired a guide, you're from New Jersey or whatever. I don't mean New Jersey in any bad way, but you're from out of town and you would get a guide and you'd love to be able to bring home fish to have fish fry that night. So I get that. But, it's nice that you have a limit. I mean, even if it's a slot that a captain puts on his boat, you know what you're in, what you're in for. And let's face it, you're not going to catch, a captain's not going to catch, maybe some good ones will, but if they know where the big fish are, but they're not going to catch four fish over 20 inches,
No,
four out, you're
right.
going to catch 18s, 17s, 16s, that kind of thing. So,
Right, right. So, guys, I just want to remind you here in the chat box if you got any questions for Kerry about release over 20, throw it into the chat box and I'll kick it out there to Kerry. But so I've got a couple other little facts and tidbits that I pulled off of your website. One, down here in Merle's Inlet, we have such a flounder factory. One of
yeah,
them was all flounder over 14 inches are female.
yeah.
So then, when you start thinking about the regulations for South Carolina, our size limit is 16 inches. So we're keeping all females and pulling them, out of the fishery. So again, that's just one of those mind blowing things. It's like you never think about it, but man, and I want to say is it 10 fish per day per person is what they keep?
No, not anymore. It's 5.
Oh, it's five? Okay.
It
Okay.
used to be 10. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But, Chris, same thing with trout. I mean, it's uncommon to find a female trout over 15 inches. So it's kind of the same thing with flounder, obviously. But yeah, flounder are one of those fishes that, the females are the big girls. And yeah, and when you keep a flounder, she's either going to have eggs or she's spawn, one of the two, which is okay, but just in
Um,
moderation,
I
yes.
do have a gentleman on Angler Issues. He says, as a captain from New Jersey, I agree. So, yeah, so we've got a captain on here from New Jersey that is, all for this. So, Angler Issues, man, thumbs up to you. That's awesome. That's
Well,
absolutely
thank you,
awesome.
Angler Issues, because it's so important that we reach up the coast too. We're in so many states. We've grown so much, Chris. We're right on the brink of really being somebody. I mean, we're just a little bit of money away from actually being something. I'm not saying the CCA, and I'm not saying but yeah, we're getting the word out, and that captain in New Jersey that just commented, New Jersey, man, can you
Yeah.
believe that we are reaching New Jersey?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah. Love it.
Captain,
Absolutely.
that captain that just commented needs to reach out to me, and when he gets a chance to come down here for vacation, get on my boat and let's just have some fun.
All right. There you go. There's your
Take him
invite.
out.
Get down here.
I'll take him out.
Yeah.
Adam says I'm going to end up in somebody's 1 gallon Ziploc bags in the freezer because I just invite anybody out.
Yeah, concrete shoes,
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then there was one for redfish that came across Instagram maybe about a month ago, and I don't know who's running your social media right now, but I love how you guys are putting out these little facts all the time on Instagram, and this one caught my eye. Where a slot limit redfish here in South Carolina is 15 to 23 inches, and the statement was an in slot red may have probably never spawned.
Yeah,
So, I mean, if you're talking an age of that redfish being, let's say, 3 or 4 years old and it has never spawned yet, never laid eggs, I,
right.
I never knew that. I never knew that. I thought once
Yeah,
they reached maybe a year, they reached their sexual maturity and then they started laying eggs, but that's not the case.
no, not at all. But going back to our social media person, I just got to give a shout out to Ashley McGee. Ashley is a great, great person. She worked for the Post and Courier. That's how I got to know her because my wife is the president of the Post and Courier, and I got to know Ashley through working with ICAST when we first started trying to have a fundraiser, that kind of thing. And Ashley's great, and she's really good at what she does. So yeah, she's the one doing all those posts, and they're fun, they're informative, and they're frequent. Which that's we just didn't. We're paying her a little something. It's not much, and she's doing it probably more out of goodness of her heart than anything else because we don't have the funds to to pay anybody really anything. Um, but anyway, yeah, she's doing that, and I think she's making a big difference.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely caught my eye. Angler Issues just gave a thumbs up. He said, I'm there all winter. So he'll probably.
Okay, good. All right. Well, Chris, you tell him to text if he knows your contact information. Text you, and I'll get him on my boat. It'd be great. We'll do a video.
Let me.
Seriously, I'd love to.
In the comments. Okay.
Adam's from New Jersey, so anytime I could get two New Jersey guys on the boat and make fun of them, that's a home run for me.
Man, you are going to end up in some concrete shoes, aren't you?
Yeah, it might be his.
So Captain Bob joined on, and his radio show On the Hook with Captain Bob is Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. And he is on 93.9. It's Carolina Gold. And again, he's on from Wilmington, Myrtle Beach, and in Charleston. And he commented, he said, Matt Perkison from
DNR.
SCDNR will be on this weekend show, and redfish populations and spawning is going to be his topic. So, catch his show on Saturday and see what SCDNR has to say about our redfish.
Well, we are all friends of Matt's. um, Release Over 20 and Matt Ferguson, we're all good friends. I mean,
Oh,
he's really knowledgeable. They have, DNR has a great team, really good team. So, if I ever say anything about the DNR and it seems like it's coming out sideways, I don't mean that at all. Because Matt Ferguson he's a great guy and he's very knowledgeable. I'm interested in seeing that, hearing that.
yeah, yeah. And if you happen to miss it, he is on Spotify. So you can
Okay,
always
good,
go back and catch it on Spotify. On the Hook with Captain Bob. So
good.
yeah, that's great. So there was another one that came up about juvenile reds. They're mainly in the estuaries and tidal creeks and salt marshes, but the adults are in the open ocean for much of the year. Excuse me. But move into the inlets and the sounds during late summer and fall to spawn. Well, that's when a lot of these guys are targeting these big bull reds,
Mhm.
in the fall time, to catch these, 30, 40-inch redfish when they're trying to do their thing. And, we're kind of disrupting their cycle. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Chris, we're also catching those fish. I think the water temperature today was, I want to say it was 87 something.
hmm,
Hot.
yeah,
So and we caught a 41-inch bull red today. Um, and it took us a minute to get him in. And, by the time you get him in, get the hook out of his mouth, resuscitate him, you got your boga grips because you're not putting him in a net. He's too
right.
big. Got your boga grips. By the time we did all that, I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, we need to get this fish back in the water. we got the fish back in the water, held on to him, and eventually, I say him, probably her, but eventually she took off. But you just have to be careful. We weren't. I mean, the rod that she was caught on was a heavier rod because it was cut bait, and the guy that was fishing off the back of the boat. So it's not like he couldn't get her in a hurry. But you catch a 31 inch or a 30 inch or a 28-inch redfish on light tackle, like I like to use. That's a battle,
Yeah.
and that fish is exhausted by the time you get her in. But yeah, you just have to be really, you just have to be diligent in getting. Don't even. I mean, if you don't have to have that picture, don't even take it. Just get that hook out of her mouth and let her go. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. And what you said there, I love. Make sure that, if you are going out to target these trophy big redfish, make sure you're using the right tackle.
Yes.
Get them in quickly, get your picture, resuscitate them, take your time with them. Make sure you're getting that oxygen flowing back in through the gills. And one of the things that I found out was you don't want to take a fish and move them back and forth, because when you pull a fish backwards, you're actually drowning the fish. You want to go forward so that the water rakes over the gills and they get the
Yeah, that water
oxygen.
needs to be flowing over their gills. It doesn't need to be going the other direction. And I
Correct.
see people do that all the time on
Yeah,
TV. And
back and forth, thinking they're trying. That fish is probably going, "What the hell is going on here?"
yeah, it's going. I can breathe. I can't breathe. I can breathe. I can't breathe.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, Carrie, we're at 30 minutes. I usually try to keep it right around 30 minutes. So I'm going to give the guys, if you have any questions, throw it in the chat box real quick. But Carrie, the last word is yours. Whatever you want to say, we'll give you the last word.
Okay, I like saying this. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm an old car buff, but I've got a 1925 Ford Model A, and that Ford Model A is. I mean, if you think about it, it's about 100 years old, and I think about not trolling motors. I'm sorry, outboard motors. They came out just. They were actually affordable right before the 25 Model T. So I just want you to think about this. Now I have pictures of my Model T. It's a convertible. I mean, it's rustic. It's got wooden spokes, all that. But if you think about the motor was actually affordable in like 1918 or 1922, something like that. Then we have look at everything that's happened since then with GPS, with spot lock on your motors. I mean, how great is spot lock with the north button?
Oh, yeah.
With the GPS, with just think about everything that now we have live scope. I mean, the fish don't stand a chance. Seriously, they
Mhm.
don't. So somebody, we have to challenge our anglers to be, you know, we just have to challenge our anglers to let the bigger ones go and to be conscientious about, what's going to happen if we don't.
Yeah.
And I'm not a doomsday or anything like that, but I just know that we have to let the breeders go. And that's really important. So that was my last thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well said. Well said. Well, again, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for stopping by and having this conversation with us. I know it's a hot topic, especially what's going on up in North Carolina. When I go down to the landing and the ramps, that's what the guys are talking about right now. I'm seeing a
Yeah.
lot more North Carolina license plates. Actually made a trip up to Cash and Rods yesterday with Captain Bob and some other people, and that's what we were talking about, is how many people are starting to migrate down, because if they want to flounder fish, they have to come to South
Yeah.
Carolina if they want to keep a flounder. So now that's even added pressure to our fisheries,
Mhm.
which it's
Yeah.
fine. I love people coming down and enjoying our fisheries, but yeah, it's up to us to make sure that we protect it.
Yep, for
So
sure. Hey, and Chris, just a real quick shout out to Cash and Rods. They gave us 4 rods, $125 value. I just want to say thank you to them. And if you guys aren't familiar with Cash and Rods, you really should get familiar because they feel great. I've actually never casted one, but I know what they feel like because I've handled these rods, moving them around from storage to storage. So yeah, they're great rods, and what a nice company to give us 4 of those things. So
yeah, yeah. I actually talked to Ben about you guys
okay,
yesterday, and of course we couldn't leave the shop without getting one, and I've got one sitting right over there. I'm going to have rigged up, so I
all
mean,
right,
I can't wait to throw it. But again, Kerry, I really appreciate it. I appreciate you guys for joining us tonight, and we will see you next week. We'll go ahead and we'll just keep rolling weekly with these and just kind of see where it goes. So, guys, I really appreciate you, and we'll catch you next time.